Hello everyone, H Farmer Cowboy here, and today I'm going to share with you week 2 and what I learned with Beowulf. I may be going over some things that I covered in week 1, but I'll be adding some more things. I'm quite sure of it. And the first thing is going over towers, which is something that I have been running a lot of because it's great for materials and getting those shards to buy other materials. So there are a few different tower builds that I'll be going over. The one that I'm actually enjoying the most, and it's probably the riskiest out of them all, is going with base Beowulf with Blades of Finesse. So I'm going to switch there from Beowulf Hydrus right now. And I will go over the build that I'll be using. So I won't be using this pet, I'll be using a different pet for this example here. So not inventory, we're going to go over to the followers, and we're going to go with, we're going to just type in tower, and not this one, even though he's a funny guy, but this one, the real MVP, my first pet that I got from the tower shop, the Towerathon choice from the first ever Towerathon that I did, Selene. Now the reason why I like Selene is because Selene specializes in AoE attacks. So you can see she has Arrow Storm, Lunar Strikes, and the Titan Seal, I believe it does. Actually, no, it's Runa Selene. One of those two. So very helpful to have Selene when you're running because you can see here she has the Bonded Ward attack and magic. Wonderful Arc Alchemy and Tower Charge, which is fantastic. And I'll be going over a quick example of what I use for my gear. So for this one, I'm actually combining the power of the pets with the power of Aura Vesta as my spell. The gear that I'm using is going to be the Lioness Crown for foresights, and the guitar for foresights. As you can see, I have Lincoln Dispersals and all the gear as much as possible, but I do not have the desired crit which I want, which is roughly around mid 80s to 90%, so whenever I use Aura Vesta 2, it's going to be a guaranteed crits most of the time, not all the time. Now, once I do get the 20% crit buff from the tower, or if you're fortunate enough and you have a Thor monument to help make up that crits, then you can rearrange some of your gear, and I do make some adjustments as I go through the tower. When I get further into the tower and I have Foresight 1 and Foresight 2, I will change out my crown for a tankier crown, which is my second best Old Northern crown. As you can see here, it's going to give me almost 200 extra defense and 358 resistance with a whopping 44% ward, which is fantastic. And it's going to give me some stats back from not having those Ashen Pinions in there, which is fantastic. Same crit rate though. But let me take and go over the spells that I use right now. So for towers, Aura Vesta is my main spell, and then I have a mix between Terror Seal, Terror Strike, Gale Seal, Gale Strike, and then Gloom Seal and Gloom Strike. The reason why is because of the buffs that you get from the guitar. The guitar can give you temporary attack 1 and or temporary attack temporary attack 1 and then magic attack 1 up temporarily. So depending on those buffs or depending on what tower buffs that I get, those will be the spells that I use depending on what it is. Perfect shots to help deal with those harpies or those second chancers that are out there that are hard to hit with those mystic feathers that they love to have. Stun Dart is a classic. Now you really don't need Mimic's Mischief, Wyvern Speed 2, or Golem's Fortitude. Those are optional choices you can filter out for other stuff. But Verse is my go-to spell that I use whenever I'm fighting the Anubis doggos with the Heretic. If I have the magic up, because it will overall do the most damage, because the Heretic is resistant to all base forms of magic. Even though I could use Gloom Strike to do neutral damage, Verse just has a little bit higher penetration than the other spells here, even Aura Vesta. So we're going to do a quick little tower run here on this 35 out of 40 floor Themis that I already do have some buffs. First things first, I'm going to take and get my Shrine buff. So the Shrine of Ashira, in order to help me out with this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to mute this real quick so I don't get any background noises. There we go. And we're going to hop into this tower. You can see the buffs that I have right now are Foresight 1, Foresight 2, crits, attack, on magic, temporary attack magic, all those great buffs. I'm missing the magic one, so I'll be alternating my gear here. As I stated before, to change out this for this helmet right here. And I will simply just start blasting. And I'm using the Blades of Finesse specialization in order to help me with more turns that I get whenever I take them out. Now I'm going to be safe here, and I'm going to ward. My second best choice that I would pick would be going with Beowulf Hydrus because of the recharge and also because it has more stats overall, aka more HP. I mean, like Ace Farmer Kevo, 31,000 HP, that's enough right there, right? It's like, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So right now my main goal is to take out these dudes here in the front. And hoping that I can hit this one. And then what I'll normally do is I will just go with either Gale Seal or Gale Strike. So I'm going to go with Gale Strike here because I have the attack one up. So it's going to do a little bit more. And then spam one more time. So that's usually the go-to and what I do for that. And I like the Selene or Tower-Thorn choice because it gives me a lot of damage. Sometimes on these certain packs it will just clear out all the smaller mobs for certain stuff. Now I'm in the situation here where I'm probably going to have to use a stun dart here on this noble, not noble Gaia, the fallen Gaia, because it's being rude. And you saw that lunar strikes there doing some nice damage there, 56,000 I believe it did. And then I just hit him with another 2. Always like taking out the Carmen packs because it gives me good materials. I'm confused, so I'm immediately going to restart this. I'm not going to risk this whatsoever. Confusion can be the death of tower runs, so that's why I always recommend people, or I'm going to recommend now if you're not doing it already, is when you're fighting the Mimic pack or the Carmen pack, always take out the Mimic first, which you'll see me do right here. And I got an extra turn, which is fantastic. So I can take out this straggler here, and then another one. So we're going to go with the Gale Strike, and then we're going to hit this dude with a couple of Terror Strikes, thanks to that Titan power. Or I'm just going to Terror Seal, because it'll do enough. So back to our arch nemesis, the Carmen. We're going to do this. Now, I do understand that some people can't just be like, oh, I'm going to reset if you've already entered the tower as it expired. So sometimes you just have to roll with it. So my tip there is to don't bring Quad Edge or other multi-turn spells on your spell list if you haven't warded up before you attacked, because then they can all attack you when your ward turns drop. To share what my Amity is, I'll show it to you right here. My Amity is Thwacking ability, which is 40% crits with 3 starting war turns, which is fantastic to have. And then, you know, I take a little bit more from Lioness, which is okay, and negative status special lasts 10% longer. That's okay. The main thing I care about is the ward turn, but I'm going to have some spicy new gear in the future that you'll see later on today on stream once I get it set up. But let me show y'all if I can get an Arrow Storm or our Lunar Strikes popping off here. There's a nice Arrow Storm. Not as much as I would like. Maybe if I had there's the Lunar Strikes. Let's take a quick look at the log. 178k, and that's only with attack 1. So thank you, Selene, for that. Now you can actually build this as a pet build. That temporary all was fantastic to see there. You can do it with the pet build, but I recommend if you do want to use a pet build, probably it'd be better to go with Beowulf Regia, because you'd have a higher protect chance and you have the chance for the pet to act for 2 turns. And that's what we like to see right there, where the Lunar Strikes just does the work, taking them out. Almost took out all these. Still very nice, so thank you, Tower-a-thon choice, for that. Now I'm going to show you in a few what it is that I do whenever I battle the Titan Bosswood build that I use. And some recommendations for that as well. Oh, you thought you could get away, Skull. Nope. I need all the shards I can get. So I will gladly take you out. And one more. Done. For that floor. just giving y'all a heads up, I will probably be using Ultimate Strikes as my build, but you can also go with the pet build as well. I'm not going to take out that one here. I'm going to keep on moving along here. I'm going to take out everything here, even the Gorgon. Yeah, and probably not that Arisen Thor there, but I'm going to go with that, then this, that, and it just works all perfectly right there whenever you get those extra turns, and the pet does the big damages. I'm going to risk it and let my war turns drop and let the pet do some work here. And we took him out. Alright, here we go. We are going to fight the Tower Titan Themis. Let's see, what's the buff? Lightning. Alright, so I have a build here in mind. It's called Tail Tower Fights. People may or may not know that the Titans are actually bosses. They're not raids. Which means that the Tail of the Sphinx can actually work on said Titans. Now, I'm trying to Demon Forge or get these Demon Forge here to God Forge. So that is why I have these two on here. And my Amity is 40% crits with 20% water. I have the Hands of Prometheus and my weapon. And I have this for a little bit extra accuracy with some stats. So I'm going to jump into this one. Overall, I'd say if you do have Beowulf Hydrus, it would be a lot faster in order to use Beowulf Hydrus in order to fight the Titan, because you'll get more hybrid damage than you will with base. But you can still do some really good damage. And after I finish this build here, or finish this Titan here, I will show you a more beginner-friendly build, because this one does require you to have a previous tower class to have it. The next one that I will show you will not have that requirements, and you can use some other gear as substitutes for that. So let's see, nice 4 million, and that's a 7 million almost. Gonna pop my ward turns up real quick. Don't want to get hit by that 27,000 if I don't have to. And I'm using the Hell's Chest because it gives you immunity to stun and to blind, which is very bad to have. Please don't hit me. And we took him out. And nice, almost 29,000. So moving on to the second build that you can build on either Beowulf or Beowulf Hydrus. And that is going to be on the next page here, which is going to be Storming Tempest. Storming Tempest, you would want to have a ward turn Amity, which is this one. This is a ward turn with ward regeneration. And then you would like to have the Windtamer Shield as your main component here, because Storming Tempest is an ability that hits multiple targets. And then you want to have some more force types, so that's why I really like the Windtamer Boots, my better quality. And I still go with the theme of using the Vithar Charm and the Briny Pendant. You can also swap out either one of those for the Emin Ring, depending on your fight that you need. And then I'm using the Arisen Rift Cowl for the accuracy that it provides, and then the Phase Reader's Cuirass for the bunches of wards that it provides, and then using the Hybrid Guitar for the stats. Now, if you don't have any of this stuff, some recommendations I'd recommend: if you have the opportunity to battle the Turn King Lycanus, you can get the Beastfell Boots, and you can bring yourself a Mighty Mimic Pets, and you can change out one of your accessories to an art gadget to prevent your defenses from being lowered. And the goal would be to use Mimic's Mischief first turn, which will make the Mightiest Mimic or the Mightiest Merc immediately use Ward of Ward Knights as soon as possible, giving you that 85% ward absorption, comboed with the Art Gadget, preventing your defense and resistance from being lowered from said Mimic's Mischief. And then you can just put in your tankiest piece of chest and helmet that you have, and any ward turn Amity or hybrid if you have that. You can also get away with using a buff duration as well, but I'm going to use this build right here, and I'm going to do a tower. Now, will I be doing it on 22 Anguish? Probably not, because I am unsure about this. The build to be fair, so I'm going to bring it down to 20. You're like, oh, only 2 less? It's like, yeah, that actually does matter a big difference. And I'll do about 5 or 10 floors, and we're going to find out exactly how good this is. And we're going to bring the same pet as well, which is going to be the Selene. First, Tower Chest Water Immune. That is huge when you're fighting the Frost Trolls. And the second one is a puzzle key. Thank you for that. Now, you usually have to gauge yourself on should you use your Ward of Ordinate or Mighty Mimic first or not. I'm going to take and just go for damaging because it's Lover's Lost. So 55k is pretty nice. Now, I was saying to use the Mighty Mimic, so I am going to use that for the next couple of fights to show it off. How this combo would work. So I'm going to battle this one right here. I'm going to show you the master plan at work. So it's bam, Mimic Mischief, immediately into Ward of Ordinites. So now they can't hurt you as much. They can still hurt you. And then bam, Storming Tempest. It just starts doing some good damage here. And luckily the Amity that I have has extra ward regeneration. So even though they do hit me pretty hard, it will stop. Now I'm going to risk it a little bit here, and I'm going to rely on the Blades of Finesse. And I'm going to try and kill some things with Swarming Tempest to get an extra turn back with this first. And it did work. So then I don't have to worry because bam, Ward of Ordinite. So I like this build. I would probably recommend not using it for every single situation, especially if you are going to be fighting the Ronins or the Harpies or the Immortal pack or any pack that you know for certain that will go before you. The reason why I lowered my Anguish is because I knew that I can move before the Frost Trolls with this amount of Foresight together, which is a grand total of 569 right now. And that double defense buff is going to come in mighty handy. So I'm just going to buff up here just because I know the damage isn't enough to take out these in one shot. And I don't want to have to deal with their Mystic Feather. And it still doesn't, so great. Oh, never mind. I changed my mind. Apparently it does have a good amount of damage range. And that's why I bring the perfect shot for this reason, then take it out. And then we can immediately just spam Storming Tempest or another spell if you want. But this is a more introduction build for the gear because you do not necessarily need to have an ornate Windstorming Tempest shield or Windtamer shield in order to make this work. You need to have one and then put on your tankiest shield you have to make it work. So I think that will be my demonstration of this build right here. Now going on to the next one, which is going to be Beowulf Hydrus. I haven't put this build together yet just because I don't like using it, and this would be the final version of the build for people. So let's see, I don't have the gear, so I'm going to go grab it at my storage. And you may be like, well, why don't you like using this build? And some people know why, or don't know why, and I'm going to explain. This build that I'm going to show you is going to be the Chain Shield build, which is going to be the most powerful of the 3 different builds. So I do have a shield prepared for that. And I can make it work in a couple different ways. So we're going to go to Towers. And we're going to just build it right now. And I'm going to show you how powerful it is. And share a little bit more on why I don't like to use it. So we're going to go with this. And then we're going to go with this. So there you go. I got a wonderful 300 plus Foresight there. I keep the same Amities, and I'm going to use a hybrid Amity. And I have a hybrid with starting war turns right here. Don't really care about the Malices. And then we're going to go to Spells for Tower, and we're going to put in Chain. And then we're going to put in Ward of Light. So the reason why I don't like using this build, even though I have used this in the past numerous times on my main class, is because it is very overpowered And also, it's not the intended class that people would necessarily need to take and use it. So you can see there, bam, 400k. I'm probably going to put on my tower pets. I'm going to bring Themis, aka Support Lady, just for the cleanse and the chances to help with ward turn chances. So you can see here I'm doing a whole bunch of damage. It does drop off after each hit because I don't have ward regeneration. Because I'm using my hybrid loot, you can also use an axe and still do a lot of damage, especially once you get temporary buffs like that. See, easily doing enough damage in order to one-shot big bosses in there. So the way that I see it is that it goes like a ladder. People can agree or disagree with this, so it goes off Wind Tamer Shield, Aura Vesta, and then Chain Shield. So that's kind of like the order. More beginner is the Wind Tamer because it's an item you can get by killing a boss or a raid. Quality doesn't matter. Then you go with Aura Vesta, which still requires you to have a lot similar to Chain Shield, but I think it's a lot more convenient for people to work than Chain Shield because you will need to have a lot of ward, which can be doable without using the exact things that I'm using right here, to be fair. And then the Blades of Finesse too. Technically, you can use both of these builds, or all three of them, with Disciple of Finesse too if you do not have Blades of Finesse. But you can see right here, I have 24,000, almost 25,000 attack and magic, which means that I can do a lot of damage with that, with also having now 40,000 HP, as I shared before with that. So that kind of will conclude my tower part. For towers, for Beowulf Regia, I'm going to go over a build that I used real quick. I tried this, not a Chronomancer. I'm just using this for the Great Felling event that's going on right now. But for towers, I'd recommend something where you have a pet damage Amity with starting war turn, either Amity or gear. So these legs give me starting war turn. Still have the what I would consider the elemental immunity holy trinity here, which is the Mirvithra, the Briny, and the Qatar. And then my Bayo sniper bow has the Lace of Selene, and then I'm using a different Lioness crown with Jewels of Creation for that foresight that'll move first, combined with this stuff, and then this chest for having lots of wards. So that would be my advice there. For the spells, this is what I would use. Scotty, you know, Word of Warden Knight, Stun Dart, Gunner, different buffs and debuffs along lines. Maybe not every single spell on here, but to a certain extent, most of these here. But since we're going to go over raiding, I'm going to show my other build for raiding that I use here, which is the Stasis Chronomancer Towerfall build. Now, it was the other pet that I showed you before. I spent all day farming towers and all I got was this. That is the one that I normally use for this build because it's a funny name and it matches kind of together with the skin a certain bit. And the spells that I use are this right here. If I can get properly there. So let's see. We're going to go with raids. Here, Word of Warden Knight, Lacuna for the Stasis, Quad Edge, Sinatra, Outwill, Gen. This is very important. You do not want to use Mimic's Mischief. You want to use Gen because that attack buff from the Mimic's Mischief will have a chance for it to use a completely different spell than using Towerfall. You don't really need Scotty or Brynhild, but it can help out to change it depending on your buffs if you want to use that. But we're going to go over to a raid and we're going to take it out for a test drive. So I'm going to go battle this tree right here because I need Solarites to ascend. So first things first, first turn Lacuna, immediate stasis, because the gear has 100% assassin rate. And then I just go with these buffs here. And I'll use a magic tonic. You can see it's already doing big damages. And I can use some quad edges if I want to, but I will change my mind and do that. Use 2 of them, 3 of them will not be good, so we can go with the log, and we can see that it did 2 million, then it did 2.1, and then at the grand total it did 3.7 for the tower fall. Now another build that I like to use when I'm going with Tamer, which is a little more safer at time to time, would be this one right here. And you can put in this right here. This is a more safer version because it's using the Fagird stuff. I use the Arisen Art Gadget for whenever I use the Jin's Talent. It doesn't reduce my defense and resistance. This for extra health and mana and for some immunities depending on what raid you're fighting. You can change out that amity. And then this is a buff duration with mana per turn. So I'm going to show this one off, and we're going to change out the pets because you can still use this one for sure, but the other gear was tuned to amplify that. But we're going to go with this kitty cat, Chat Noir, aka Booze Lover, aka the Arisen Spirit Garm, for that. So let's see, we're going to battle another tree, and I'm bringing the Ymir Vither Charm to be immune to it. Ultimate attack on the first turn. Okay, I see how it is. I see how it is. And then let's see, this should take him out right there. And let's look at the log real quick. Bam, look. So first hit was 1.4. Then we had a double hit of 2.5 and 3. So almost 5.5. And then the last one that finished it off was 1.6. So overall, I'd say this build is probably faster, but potentially a little more dangerous than the other build because you are not having the boss locked down with the stasis. But that is what I mainly use for Beowulf Regia for the raids. Now, I do like to use Beowulf Hydras for raids as well, and I like using Ren Daggers. It is one of my favorite Blades of Finesse spells, or Blades of Finesse in general is one of my favorite specializations. This is what I've been using right now in order to take out the Star-Lord raid in order to farm some soul rights with the Feahel's Garb and the Emin Ring to provide the immunities for what I need. It comes in very handy here. And this is just for the crit rate, so I can have 75%. So I don't have to worry about buffing up, and I can just immediately just go with attack 1 gunner or attack 2, attack 1 gunner, and then just start blasting. Amity is 40% crits with the 20% water. And I like using the hybrid guitar again because I think it does give you more damage in the long run than going with crits. And I like using the katana because the katana gives you 15% crit damage passive already and a chance to apply the temporary attack and temporary magic and resistance and defense down. So this is what I learned a lot for doing Beowulf on the second week. I'm looking forward to see what I can do, if I can possibly improve some of the builds that I've shown y'all for the future. But if you haven't already, don't forget to take and like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friend or any of the other videos to get them into playing the wonderful game of Orna. I will catch y'all in the next video or live on Twitch. Links in the description. Peace, everyone. Bye.